Hello and welcome to Take Your Points to GA show. My name's Niall Mackay and today our special guest is former Tyrone footballer Ronan O'Neill, who'll be talking about his decision to leave the Red Hand panel in recent weeks. But first we're going to be joined by Gerard O'Kane and Cathal Carville and we're going to discuss the action that happened at the weekend past. So not news of topics, but I think the weekend brought it back into focus again, the talk of football tiered championship. First of all, Gerard, I'll let you reflect a bit as a former Derry player on the Ulster Derby. Yes, were you happy, obviously not with the result, but with how Derry performed on the day at Healy Park?
I don't know what Derry would leave relatively happy. They could beat. Looking at performance is maybe a different thing, but the fact they got themselves into a winning position on the 62nd minute, I would say they wouldn't be overly happy that they came away defeated. I know certainly as a paying punter going to the game, what I was expecting and the fact Derry got there, 62nd minute, they're a point up, they end up getting beat. I left sort of deflated. It wasn't a case of, yeah, I'm happy we kept Tyrone within touching distance. We played Donegal last year in Celtic Park. Donegal kept us to 5 points and it was like a boxer sort of keeping someone at arm's length with a jab. Yesterday the Tyrone game was a wee bit different in that respect, but I think once you work yourself into a winning position at that time of the game, Derry would have definitely before the game says, right, we'll take a point up 62nd minute and see how we manage the game from there. And unfortunately the next 2 or 3 minutes after they'd done that, they sort of didn't manage the game in a way that they didn't expect to be in that position, so they didn't plan for it.
Yeah, you mentioned the boxer there, the knockout punch. It came possibly too early, and you find, you know, when we see these underdog stories of an underdog upsetting, it does tend to be a late goal or a late score, something like that. And I think there were still 10, 15 minutes left when Shane McGuigan found the net. And I suppose as a Derry fan, if that happened maybe 5, 6 minutes later, then they could have really sat and had something. But the fact that they conceded the goal so soon after just took the punch out of it so quick.
Yeah, like I say, like they scored the goal with about 16 minutes to go, and then the game swayed back and forward, but Derry hit 2 of the next 3 points and went a point up in the 62nd. And I think it was at that point that Derry should have looked at it. Derry had pushed up and kick-outs all day, and I think it worked a treat for them. They pressed Tyrone back in. If the short wasn't on, Derry had enough out round the field to break the ball, and once it falls to the ground, it's 50-50. On that occasion, I think whenever Derry went a point up, I think they should have, I don't know whether they planned or not like that, but they should have conceded the kick out. What was the worst could happen? Niall Morgan tap it 10 yards to Michael McKiernan, the corner back, and yes, they work it 100 yards up the field. Instead, they didn't. They gambled on it, and Niall Morgan had a booming 80-yard kick, went over the midfield towards half back. Frank Burns standing free, and he was nearly in for a point himself. Never mind the goal. And it was nearly reminiscent of what Sean Patton done last year. Yeah, Donegal used the exact same tactic. Had a booming kick out over the half back line. They were raced on top of their full forward line. And I think at that point, once Derry went the point up with 7 minutes to go, they should have said, concede the kick out, let him tap it to the corner back, and that way he has 120 yards to get in for a score.
It's interesting, it's maybe because it's Derby, it didn't feel like it maybe a Division 4 versus Division 1 that we're used to, because Derry are obviously such a big name, but it would have been only, I think, the 18th time or something that happened. There was some stat floating about a Division 1 or Division 2 team be beaten by Division 4 team. And actually the 17th time it happened the day before with Limerick and Tipperary, and quite comfortably in the end. And I know you touched on this, you're going to be writing about it in this week's Gaelic Life. It was an interesting weekend for that debate in terms of the tiered championship, where we did see, with the exception of Roscommon and Leitrim, the lower ranked teams really did put it up to their, and in some cases defeated their higher ranked opposition.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and I think, but we can't get too carried away. To be honest, and I look back and looking at the Tyrone game, if you look back at the game against Meath last year, they were put to the pin of the collar, went to extra time down in Navan, and they got over the line and they grew into it at that point. And I think the time to beat Tyrone was yesterday, you know, when they're maybe a wee bit green coming into the championship, but I think they will grow into it and become a different animal later on in the championship. In terms of that stat, it is one that everyone who's talking about, no, we need to have the full championship. Brendan Donaghy from Armagh had said last year that, you know, the thought of tiered championship makes him sick, and you know, the motivation for him coming out every day is to try and win Sam Maguire. But we need to look at the realities of this. 17 times in the history of the association. When you're looking at Leitrim and what their motivation is coming out, getting to the league final was a brilliant day for all the Leitrim players. You know, Wicklow, even though they were on Meath close, the reality is that there's only 6, 7 teams, maybe 8 teams at max, that are in with a realistic shout of winning Sam Maguire. So what is the motivation for all of them other players to actually go out and, yes, it's great to put on the jersey, but to go out and, you know, I think later on the championship is going to be big scores run up, and I am an advocate of the tiered championship system, absolutely.
I would probably be along the lines of Cahill, that you have to think realistically. Had Leitrim have played in the B Championship yesterday and got over the first round, or even if they keep their own provincial championship and then go into B All-Ireland, what sort of progress or momentum would they have made kicking on from the league final as opposed to yesterday going out and getting tanked by Roscommon in the first game? Now they're kicking their heels for 4 or 5 weeks to the qualifiers. I can even know for myself, you know, our club's playing that intermediate league this year, and if you had said to me 7, 8, 9 years ago whenever we were challenged for senior championship, no, you want to play in the senior championship all the time, that's the level we're at, and I suppose we have to be realistic, and teams that are at that level have to be realistic too. I know that Cahill alluded to Brendan Donaghy. Kevin the Boyle was captain Antrim there a few years. One of their best players said something similar, that he wasn't playing a B Championship, whereas the flip side of the coin, Lenny Harbison is one of the more vocal people asking for a B Championship, and he's an Antrim county manager, with Antrim saying, look, I think he actually said in the press one day, my players aren't going to win Ulster, so what's their motivation? And there has to be some light at the end of the tunnel, and it wouldn't happen in county football within your own club. They wouldn't lump all teams in together. So I think it's just as unrealistic to expect that teams in Division 3 and 4 to be able to compete even with top Division 2, Division 1 teams. Now, as you say, there's a bit of borderline teams there that aren't going to beat Dublin or aren't going to beat Mayo in the Championship. But for those teams that's in Division 2, probably the fairest way of cutting it is down the middle.
And just in a word, like the next 5 years, a tiered championship, inevitable or not, whether it will happen or not, do we expect it to happen or not, whether you agree it or not?
Well, certainly I think it has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, John Horn came in on a mandate that he was going to bring it in, and you know, I'm looking at it from the hurling perspective, and it is right that implementing it properly and giving it the right place in the GAA calendar and making it a prestigious event that people can get motivated about and people want to win and want to push on. If you think about the club championship, for example, winning a junior All-Ireland would be hurling or football, you know, would be the highlight of your career with your club. Intermediate, same, I played in an intermediate All-Ireland final, and you know, one of the memories I'll take with me forever. The fact that once in a blue moon a Division 4 team beats a Division 2 or Division 1 team, you know, a broken clock's right twice a day. It doesn't mean that this is the way to go forward and to continue to doing the same thing, because you're going to lose players, you know, quality players that are saying, you know what, I don't want to give the level of commitment required to play inter-county, because what's the point? I could use my time and talents to do other things, because I've no chance of competing with the likes of a Dublin or a Mayo, and I'm just wasting my time. I don't want to go out and get humiliated on a Sunday and then have all the people in the club saying, oh, he's useless. You know, so that is the reality of the situation, no matter how we paint it. And a lot of people on Twitter were saying to me yesterday that, no, we have to continue, this is the way it is. But it's time for change, and the time's now.
Jared, next 5 years, will we see a tiered championship?
Well, as you said, whether I agree with it or not, I think the GAA will push it forward. As Cal said, that's one of the things that John Horn had in his mandate when he went round the counties, and it's one of the issues that he was maybe elected on. I think it is going to happen, and I don't think the GAA have any excuse now that they trialled the Tommy Murphy back in 04, 05, 06, 07. There's now is there maybe 4 or 5 maybe hurling levels, so they've seen it on 2 different aspects already, so there's no excuse for not getting the third time round exactly right. You know, if they work on it right, get the right teams in it, promote it right, get the right backing from the TVs, get the right coverage in it, I don't think they've any excuse for not getting this one right.
On the hurling point, I can give a front row seat view of what the benefits of a tiered championship, you know, where it progressed us in Armagh, where it gave us that, you know, flagship, where it gave us that media coverage, you know, in the likes of the Gaelic Life and the likes of the Irish News, in terms of our Nicky Raggart's success, Christy Ring's success, you know, players from the Armagh playing the Railway Cup team. I represented Ireland, the Shinty, you know, we are given that opportunity because we're playing at the level and we're being willing to compete at the level. I've played in Croke Park, you know, a lot more times than any of the footballers in Armagh, and been given that opportunity and had different things that happened in my career that have benefited from the fact that we're playing at our level, we're competing at our level. And you know, the Joe McDonagh Cup at the weekend, great game between Antrim and Kerry up in Dunloy, big crowd at it Sunday afternoon. and some great hurling play as well. Carlo showed the progression in terms of where they've stepped up against Galway, drew with them in the league and ran them very close in Galway. So the tiered championship does give you not only the opportunity to compete and to play against the teams at your level, but also progress and to make that progress to the next step. And I think for some of the weaker teams, the reality is that they need to be given that opportunity to play against teams at their own standard, and you're going to enjoy it more. No one enjoys going out and getting hammered. You're going to enjoy it more, and it's going to give you that bit of motivation to train harder, to take that next step.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's a subject we'll be revisiting this summer, but thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right, no bother.
Okay, now we're joined by our special guest, Ronan O'Neill from the Omagh Club up in Tyrone, obviously a former Red Hand player. I suppose we're here 24 hours after Tyrone have beaten Derry. A few months ago it would have been a match, would have been on your radar, but it isn't for obvious reasons. How did you feel watching that, taking a decision that you did take a few weeks ago, Ronan?
I suppose extremely hard decision to make. It's been a part of my life since I was 19 years of age, and I suppose sort of knew halfway through the league that I was going to pull out as such, but I suppose the way it went, we had 2 losses and a draw, and didn't want it to affect the teams with preparations and stuff, so just plugged away, kept training hard, and then the league had to make a decision if things didn't change, and it didn't. So and the team were playing well, and I found myself it's going to be very hard to get back in, never mind in the team in the 26th then too. So just phoned Mickey the other day or the night to the Galway game and just said, listen, I was going to step away for the rest of the year, play a bit of club football, get my confidence back, and then we'll see how things go at the end of the year. And I suppose yesterday was just a different experience. We played a club game in the morning, and then went down, had to do your bit for the club to sell your half-time draw on, and just as happened to come in, the boys were coming in the bus, and it's just a different experience, as such. But it's such as life, and you have to get on with it, and it's not part of my life anymore. But I felt since I made the decision, it's sort of just a sense of relief.
Yeah.
It wasn't caught up in the frustration of not playing. I'm back playing now, and which is great for myself. Went yesterday full support for the boys and hoping they could do the business, and which they did. So just a new experience in life and just getting on with it. So
yeah, I think I was wrong, but you're 26, is that right?
Yeah, 26.
So you've been around a long time. It feels you've been around a long time, but you're still very young, relatively young. So is that, I suppose, that sort of helps? Like if you're 29, 30 and you're thinking, right, I've only a couple of more years, you might have hung on just for the hope, but now you can say, listen, I'm going to see if it works next year, but as long as I'm playing, that was basically your key decision there.
Well, that's what you do. You play football to be playing games, week in, week out, and I just thought to myself that I was doing all the work. I was going to the gym, I was doing the training, I was doing the eating, whatever it was, and I wasn't getting the rewards for it, and that's no one else's fault, not Mickey's fault, it's not my fault, it's just the way it was, and he picked a team that was best to play, and I wasn't there, and the team were winning, and I just felt to myself, I wasn't doing myself justice, and I wasn't doing him justice, so just felt to myself, listen, let's step away here, let's go play football, let's get the confidence back, let's start playing well for Omagh, let's make a push to the championship again, and let's see where it takes you next year. So yes, maybe if it was 29, 30, it could have been a different experience, and I do believe that the boys will go on this year and maybe win All Ireland, and that sort of hindered my decision a wee bit as such, because I thought, do I really want to be part of the team and not be part of the team as such? You'd be there and not playing, because that's not just me. I want to be in the thick of things, and I sort of weighed up the pros and cons. I just felt better for myself, just step away and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and you said in an interview after that, Mickey gave you a couple of things to work on. What specifically do you and Mickey sort of see, what areas do you feel that you can improve on in the game, or is it just a confidence sort of thing at a regular playing, or are you looking at this now going, right, this is an aspect of the game that I want to work on?
A bit of a mixture of everything, as such, with not playing games, you lose a bit of confidence, maybe you lose a bit of fitness as such, and you lose a bit of sharpness, and I just felt and he just felt that I wasn't as sharp as I was, and maybe going back to club, that'll come back again with the run of games, and so far I played 4 or 5 league games and feel a wee bit of sharpness coming back, and no way I'm back where I want to be, but it's a step maybe to where I want to be, so some of these things I'll just work on. I've a whole summer to work on it. Hopefully the championship doesn't come around in September, hoping the boys go the whole way, at least All Ireland final at least, and give you more months of training and more games, which will be good for myself, and then hopefully get an extended run the championship then, and show Mickey then that I'm fit to come back in next year maybe.
Yeah, and for supporters, players being in and out, it's very black and white sort of thing. A player should be there, shouldn't be there, different things like that. But I'm sure when you're in that, you're just outside the match day squads in the league there, which is something you weren't used to. I'm sure it's a very sort of, I won't use the word dark, but a very sort of sad place almost to be, Ronan, when you know that, listen, what do I have to do here? And I'm sure it must have been a tough time for you those few weeks, especially when you'd sort of already made your decision, but you didn't want to upset the camp and you knew that it was coming.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Like, you're going to games and boys are asking you, like, what's wrong with you, why are you not in? Like, and you're saying the same thing over and over again, and then you're in school and boys, your pupils are asking you why you're not playing, like, and you just have to say, just have to suck it up and just say, listen, I'm not being picked at the moment, and it's just a new experience, such as it was hard. Like, obviously, yeah, you're not used to it. I was used to being the 26 and maybe coming on 15, 20 minutes to go, and maybe kicking a point or doing what, or scoring a goal or whatever. And this year it just didn't happen, materialise, and Darren was back in this year and Kyle was back in, and they knew like a lease of life as such, been stepping away and come back in again, and I just thought to myself, maybe I could do the same thing too as such. So I suppose you're going to get that stuff from supporters, like, I think I've learned the hard way. I think I'm probably the most criticised person maybe in Tyrone at times, like getting some unwarranted criticism, and sometimes there is warranted criticism, but just felt sometimes that maybe I was getting maybe a bit too much from spectators rather than than other aspects too.
That's something I would have noticed, like, and it's interesting you picked up on that. You do seem to come in, you got an awful lot of flack, like, and even when you're playing well, and I don't know what it is. There's a perception maybe that you don't have the work rate of some players or something like that, and I'm sure that's as tough to take as anything, Ronan, when boys are, no matter what you do, you seem to just sort of get a wee bit of a jab here and there.
Oh, you do, of course, and that's part and parcel of it, as well. And a lot of my friends and family would, you probably see that JA board as such, and boys would be sending me stuff on it, like, and there are people with sports Ronan, and then next thing you're winning all your titles and the boys are clapping you in the back, and you're just thinking, are these same boys are maybe writing about me behind a computer screen, or and my mother and father go to games and my girlfriend, and they're hearing people behind them giving off about me too, like. And I thought I had a good year in 2016 with Tyrone. I scored 2 goals against Derry, maybe I got a man of the match 2 games in a row against Derry and Cavan, and then we played Donegal, and that game was sort of like a different aspect. I was up front by myself, and Donegal played 14 behind the ball, and then I was getting abuse, and I was just thinking to myself, do people have a short memory like as such? But just part and parcel of the game, as such. It probably affected my family more than anything as such, just listening to why people are saying this as such. And yes, I probably don't have the work rate of Mally Donnelly or Niall Sludden as such, but I probably have some things that them boys don't have too, and I thought that's what brought me to the table as such. So yes, I can work on those things, and hopefully at the end of this club season I will, like, so. Yeah,
and I suppose taking a view of Tyrone, we did see more of that long ball sort of approaching the Cal McShane, and we'd imagine Matty being at different times. And do you feel they're in a better place now than they were even 12 months ago? I know it was a slow enough start, yes, but the real stuff's going to start down the line, so I don't think you can read too much from it. But how do you feel they're going, and how do you feel their hopes are for the year?
I suppose at the end of the league they had a very good league, end of the league, they beat some of the big teams there, and I suppose yesterday, maybe they took their eye off the ball a wee bit, but like, I think when they really kicked into gear is when they had such in the second half, that last 10 minutes where they kicked maybe 1-5-1 maybe in the last 10 minutes. But I do think they're in a good place. They're playing more expansive football. I think times yesterday you seen the game and Tyrone were playing the ball around the 45. It was maybe to do with their setup, maybe because they had to contain Tyrone for a while. The first 15 minutes Tyrone were on fire. They're kicking ball on the Cathal McShane. He was playing well. He was kicking scores. Richie Donnelly was kicking great balls in. Mally Donnelly was sort of controlling the game. And then they sort of probably took the foot off the gas a bit, and allowed Derry back in the game. Probably a few easy fouls they give away, and that probably grew in confidence for Derry. But I do believe that the ultimate test will be against Donegal in the Ulster Championship. I think the winner will come from that. I do think the boys have Donegal's number now at the moment. Yes, they do pose a problem, but I do see them going maybe the whole way this year, and probably, hopefully they do.
Ronan, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. That was first class, so thank you.
No problem. Thanks very much, Neil.
Okay, now we're joined by Ronan and Cathal for our final part of the night show. We're going to talk about upcoming matches. It's a busy weekend in Ulster once again, and I'll start with you, Cal, first, given that you're from Armagh. Armagh down Sunday afternoon, Derby Day, Kieran McGeeney looking at his first Ulster game. How are you feeling going into this?
I suppose I would like to say optimistic, but the facts sort of don't back up that optimism. Ulster Championship has been an issue for Armagh in the last number of years, and especially under McGeeney. But if there's ever a chance now to actually break that hoodoo, now's the time. Down have flattered to deceive, I suppose, this year, and you know, some of the new players that have come in with Armagh, and having Campbell back, you know, he is, having played against him in a recent club game, you know, he is one of the standout players in Ulster, if you ask me. So if we can get him going well, and you know, Charlie Vernon has, you know, in the sort of latter stages of his career, has been playing very well in the league, and you know, I expect him to put in a big shift, and you know, the old reliable will be looking at Clark to chip in a few scores. So, and with the cross contention with the O'Neills, I think there is grounds for optimism there, especially against Down. I think it's a good draw, Derby day. You know, hopefully the weather will be like yesterday, and you know, it'll be a good game. I'm hoping that it doesn't go ultra defensive, and that they actually go up and push up man to man and really have a go, both teams. And if you can do that, and if you can keep Mooney quiet, then you know, I think there's a real opportunity. But I'm very much looking forward to the game.
Yeah, it's interesting about Jamie Clark. I have a bit of a analysis piece going in this week's paper, and I'm looking at his scoring trends and stuff like that, and there's context to the game's changed. Jamie's changed as his player, but his scoring has dropped over the last couple of years, and Ronan, you'll know that as an inside forward, there's difficulties with that, different things. But Jamie, you know, you've played against him, you've seen him. Jamie, what do you feel about him in his game now? He is more of a sort of, he'd be used out as centre half forward different times. Would you like to see him left inside forward for 70 minutes, or what sort of way do you see him?
Well, I suppose I played with Jamie with Jordanstown there that year we got the second final, and he's a very dangerous forward when he's left one-on-one, but I think that with the game nowadays it's never going to be that case as such. So maybe it's a case of maybe trying him inside for maybe 10-15 minutes and then bring him out to centre half forward, and because he has a vision and he has that ability to, you know, pick passes from outside there. But this weekend Darren O'Hagan will probably be picking him up, and I think Darren's had his match, you know, the last number of years, and know from being in the Tyrone camp, I just don't know if Jamie likes it when he's marked very tight, you know, and such, and you just don't know if he really wants it as such. And maybe he likes it when he's been loosely marked and he's out the pitch picking up handy balls. So I think Jamie's biggest problem is he doesn't know where his best position is at the moment. But to say, like, he's a quality player, you know, and you know, hopefully he can light up the championship this year. Yeah,
it's 2014 since Armagh last won an Ulster game. Kieran, he obviously wants to win the match, but if you said to Kieran in the morning, right, you can beat Down or you can reach the Super 8s, I'm pretty sure he'll land on the Super 8s, which can be frustrating for fans. But, like, you know, when you were playing with Tyrone, you were used to getting to the latter stages of the championship. But can you see his point of view there, or as a player, if you're in a dressing room that hasn't won an Ulster game in a few years, are you sitting and you going, no, I want this Ulster win? Or would you be like looking at the longer picture there?
I think you have to be sort of realistic about it too. I think, Cal, you probably might know more different than me, but I think Armagh, I don't think they're going to win Ulster. That's my personal opinion of it as such. So if they can maybe get a run of qualifiers like they did in 2014, then maybe perhaps they should be looking at Super 8s then too. But I think if McGinney's looking at it now, he should be thinking, right, Down, let's worry about the first game. I think that's their biggest problem. Over the last number of years, they've been looking too far ahead. Will we make Super 8s this year? Will we make an Ulster title? I think, and then they got slipped up in the first couple of games, and I think they should really worry about maybe just beating Down this year and then take it game by game after that as such.
I suppose being the Achilles heel for Armagh, just a touching Down, like, you know, seeing your hope both teams go at it. Down aren't going to go at it. Down are going to set up very defensively. I think we're going to know it's going to be a typical Paddy Tally defensive performance, and he's excellent at setting the team up. And that's been Armagh's Achilles heel. I haven't been able to break those teams out. The Fermanagh League match was the first time we've really seen that. Honor McGeaney done very well. How, as a player, you've been in them situations, especially in the hurling, where you're playing different teams, and how, as a player, do you approach that?
Well, I think one of the key things when we touched on Jamie Clark, the loss of Andrew Mernon in there in the full forward line, you know, is a big loss. If you think tactically about it, with that Paddy Tally team, we've seen what he did with St Mary's, we've seen what he's done with Galway in terms of the coaching role, and he does set up those blanket defences, which makes it really difficult for the likes the stylish players like of Clark to flourish. But I do think with Mernon in there, he would have been a focal point that you put the high ball in, and we've seen it attempted with McGuigan yesterday in the Tyrone game where he was a focal point. But you need the people around, you need the bodies around, and you know that direct ball would have opened it up.
See, I sort of, and I totally agree, but I was sort of looking back on the match from 2 years ago where Mernon caused mayhem the first half, and then what Down did at half time was to clog that central channel in around him. Armagh reluctant, just wouldn't put the ball in the second half. He was causing big problems first half, but they wouldn't put the ball in. They were scared, and then they ran out of ideas. They scored, I think, 3 points in the second half. So now I think the fact that Down won't have one central route, one option to defend, that there might actually be a few more gaps, and you know, that the Armagh can probably pick holes at.
Potentially, it probably looks at maybe the likes of Ronan maybe coming out of maybe full forward, and Stefan coming out full forward, and maybe using somebody else inside as a focal point and looking to get your ball players maybe out around the 45 who can make decisions there to get through a packed defence, and then obviously finding then your shooters then on the ball when you get that opportunity space. There's no point having Stefan and Rain and Jimmy inside and having maybe with 4 or 5 bodies in front of them and not feeding the ball, and then Armagh looking around to say, what do we do here? You know, such. So if I was McGeeney, maybe I don't want to be, you know, maybe making his plans, but I'd maybe looking to get those boys on the ball, maybe out around the 45 as much as possible, and maybe using another inside forward, maybe to be a focal point. If there was a ball kicked in, you know, they can then lay it out to the runners then of the quality players Armagh have there.
Yeah, and they do have the options there. Ethan Rafferty, Stefan, Rian O'Neill can win his own ball. And Jamie, to be fair, and I'd take your point about Darren O'Hagan, Jamie is a good ball winner when he has when he has a bit of space about him. But
they do have strong runners as well, and I think this is key to the modern day Gaelic footballer. You not only should you play the tactics of long ball in, quick ball and get it in there, you know, you need to have the element of surprise. The runners off the shoulder, you know, you can't just run it consistently. The runners off the shoulder work sometimes, the short ball works sometimes, the long ball over the top. You know, we talked about the long ball yesterday when it was being pressed up on. The press works, but if you look back to Donegal and Dublin, when Donegal kept popping it over the top and Dublin pressed up in the All-Ireland quarter-final, you know, there's that option. So you always got to keep them guessing, and that's what Armagh has to do to get over this defensive block with down, run the ball at times, play the ball long in, take it short at times, go long with the ball, keep them guessing, keep them on their toes, keep switching them in the full forward line, dropping out to the half forwards, interchangeable, and you know that is the way to win against a very good and disciplined down team.
Yeah, and Armagh are down.
I'm going to go with Armagh to make their first win since 14.
Ronan?
Should be Armagh, but I'm going to go with down.
Right. Covering both bases there. Yeah. It's the first of a double weekend. On the Saturday night, Cavan Monaghan, another big derby clash. I think Cavan might just be sniffing, especially at Monaghan having big problems around the midfield areas because of injuries and different issues, that Cavan might just be thinking that there's a possible of I'd say a fairly big upset on if Cavan do turn them over. What's your take on it, Ronan?
Two of them had two very different leagues, you know, such. Cavan were always fighting relegation there, and Monaghan started off very well against Dublin, and then sort of had a tail off towards the end of the league, and then sort of got their act together and saved themselves a wee bit. But as you say, the problems in midfield, Darren Hughes is going to be a massive loss. I know Kieran Hughes played a couple of games for Scotstown there, and apparently he's been very good, so don't know if there's maybe 70 minutes in him as such. So, but you're looking at likes maybe Neil McAdam there and Carl O'Connell maybe to fill that midfield spot. But I think Monaghan's biggest problem is that they don't know their best team at times as well, and I suppose that brings the challenge itself. And maybe Cavan are looking this weekend maybe to upset the odds and maybe get one over them as well. And think about maybe beating them as such.
Lands on a good point there, but Monaghan, especially in attack, there seems to be 5 or 6 players always interchanged for 3 spots in the attack. And as a player sort of in that fringe, you don't know if you're going to be 15 or you're going to be number 17. In a mindset going into an Ulster Championship match, Cahill, how difficult is it for them boys? Because they're generally the difference in the end. I know we can talk about McManus, but it's those extra 3 or 4 points to get around the field that sometimes make the difference.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in today's game, it's not a 15-man game. It's not what they talk about, starters and finishers. And, you know, you're looking at the bench in terms of what Monaghan are bringing on. And, you know, Hughes around the middle, there's no doubt about it. I feel he's one of the best players in Ulster. And, you know, that's a big loss for them. And the mentality of players who are coming in not knowing if they're going to start or, you know, if they have done enough to nail down that position, you know, I think McAnespie needs to have a big game. You know, he has been very good and broke onto the scene. Maybe last year flattered to the seed slightly. And, you know, I think Monaghan on paper should be able to do it, but I just have question marks about, they're on the road a long time. Yes, they've blooded some new players in, but personally I think Cavan will turn them over.
Ronan?
I don't know about Cavan, to be honest. I don't know. They're huffed and puffed as such, you know, and they think they might win this one, but I just don't think they have the players to overturn Monaghan. I don't think they have the players maybe to win Ulster too. So I'm going to go with Monaghan.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Armagh and Monaghan for my prediction. So get your money in down in Cavan. Well, thanks very much, Cal and Ronan. Thanks very much.
No bother. Thanks
very much. Look forward to the games and hopefully to go well.
Cheers. Thank you.